That's right, I'm chairman. I gotta remember this shit. Jesus. I forgot for a moment. I was sitting there looking like, hey, who's gonna start this show? I guess I better do it.
Just glad you're here.
Brian, have you met Claudia? No. Claudia, that's our new city administrator.
Brian.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Yeah.
too, yeah. Is it really? Tell me, is it really nice to meet you?
you know,
It is.
Good.
don't worry if you're criticized, she likes you. I mean, that's the way it works. Okay, looks like it's now 2:00, and we'll call the meeting of the Supplemental Benefits Fund Steering Committee regular quarterly meeting to order for October 25th, 2023 at 2 p.m. And roll call, please.
Sonny Brandt. Here. David Pittman.
Here.
Chrissy Riggs.
Here?
Shannon DeLong.
Here.
Tracy Johnstone.
Here.
Okay, for our advisory members, we have Eric C.
Eric will not be here. Andy is parking.
Okay.
Okay. Jonathan Young. He is online. Perfect.
Hello, Jonathan.
Steve Rothert. Not present. Okay. Dave Steindorf is the alternate. Is he present? Okay. I show Mark Grover via Zoom, so he is present. Claudia?
Yes.
Perfect. And Aaron Wright. Thank you.
All right, Pledge of Allegiance. Chrissy, would you lead us, please?
Please stand. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is hearing of individuals on non-agenda items. Do we have any non-agenda items or slips?
We do not.
Okay. Hey, how are you doing? All right, consent calendar. Any members have a question about the consent calendar?
I would,
Go ahead.
I would like to make a correction. I think the draft letter supporting agencies, we need to have something added to that verbiage that should say, it should be the policy going forward that any correspondence should not be the opinion of any single member, but the consensus of the voting parties of the committee.
So we could take that and put it in policy?
I think it should be put in policy. I think it should be the voting members, not a single individual.
I think we can just do a simple,
What we could,
go ahead.
is this on?
Yes.
Yeah,
I hear
okay,
you.
thank you. What we can do is, at the next meeting, I will bring a
Bring it back for
addendum to
acceptance.
the bylaws, and that actually is the proper way to do it to
Sure.
ensure that it occurs in the future. Okay?
Thank you.
Getting back to the consent calendar, is there any other questions about the consent calendar?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead. Which item?
On the Trails Committee. Trails Committee was appointed at the meeting, and Bob called a meeting and called me. I wrote it down, and then he talked with Chrissy, and Chrissy said, because of Dave's comments, which are in the minutes, there doesn't need to be a meeting. And my comments that the responsible agencies for the trail need to get together. They're the ones. ORAC isn't going to solve our trails problems. I just happen to have with me the Memorandum of Understanding, and this is from October of '96. And we had a Memorandum of Understanding with DWR, Department of Parks and Recreation, Caltrans, Feather River Recreation District, City of Oroville, Department of Fish and Game, and the Oroville Bicycle Association. We had that kind of cooperation. this memorandum of understanding tells who's responsible for what part of the trail, who's going to do the signs, who's going to do the policing. Can anybody give that to me now and tell me who even owns the trail? There were lots that the property wasn't on any lot, and it cost us, what, a year? Going through legal courses to get the right to build a trail through there, and we can't get the agencies to sit down and talk together. Let ORAC do it. What? But my comments about we need responsible agencies to sit down and get together and see how we can expand our trails. This is one of the biggest assets in recreation, other than the lake itself. My God, over 200 miles of shoreline. The biggest recreation in the country. Trails, bird watchers, bicyclers, equestrians, hikers, runners. And we don't want to sit down and talk and do a better job. I don't understand it. And then the minutes, the committee doesn't meet, I guess. But it wouldn't be much good if it was Chrissy and I. We need cooperation. We need DWR. We need Parks and Rec. We need the city. We need the county. This community's got to get together. Got to open our minds and think about the potential and the possibilities with our wildlife area and the rivers and lakes. And we've got to use them, and if we don't, we're abusing our responsibilities.
I would say what we need to do is take that interoffice memo from the past and just rebuild from that. And because the SBF is kind of a poor mechanism, but as Sonny brings forward, all the agencies together is a much better mechanism to look at trails and do those kind of things. I would like to bring this item back after we review that memo and then make a strong suggestion on how to do it, because the difficulty of the SBF is, we're a little different mechanism than that. We don't have any enforcement powers here.
Correct.
We can certainly make suggestions and recommendations, but as Mr. Brandt or Commissioner Brandt brings up, we ought to take a look at that memo from the past and bring that forward at an agenda size for the next meeting, if you're welcome to do that.
That's an MOU?
Yeah, it was back in time, yeah.
Is there a copy of the memo? Do you have extras?
No, it's done next year,
Okay.
but you can have it and make copies, and I'll come get a copy.
Okay.
It's interesting. I've only seen probably two I've seen a memo that said at a meeting they all agreed. I've seen a memo with Roland Williams, was it, with Water Resources?
Yeah.
And the Recreation District.
Well, and
Maybe that's all, but the city of Oroville, Judge Hermanson saw one with the city of Oroville, so I don't know whether every agency actually ended up signing. I've never seen a completely executed copy of it.
Well, we'll search our files too and find that, and then
Okay.
bring it back to the agenda item for the next meeting, so we
I
can.
do. I have it down, and
Okay.
we'll get copies, and
All
I
right.
can send them out electronically to the committee.
Okay.
And we can maybe come up with what we're trying to,
Yeah.
I kind of understand what we're trying to do. I think we need to come up with how we're going to do it.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
All right,
Okay.
I have it written down.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Brandt. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Just keep pressing until the red light's out. Hold it down. There you go, you got it.
Okay.
It's that second press that kills you. There you go,
Don't touch.
you're good.
Was that a signed MOU, or is that a draft MOU that you just handed to Mr. Marciniak?
It was a meeting, and it was the MOU that was made from the meeting. And there's been, I've seen ones with 3 signatures, I don't know whether
Well, it's a good research for us all to find. And if it's back to 96, that was, I don't think we even started discussions in 96 about the relicensing, if I remember right. Claudia? Oh. Okay. Yeah.
I was in college having a good time at that time. That would have been slightly post the 94 rec plan.
Okay.
So,
All right. Okay, well, we'll research it and bring it back, and it's the best way to go, I think. If we've got all the agencies involved, then it's a much stronger document. Aaron?
We said this last time too, but if the park district wants to set up a meeting,
Sure.
we're always happy to meet with our partners. So I know I met with staff from the park district earlier this month on other topics. If you guys set up a meeting, I mean, at least for state parks, we're willing to come and meet and talk.
Sure.
I don't have the capacity to take on coordination of a meeting, but we're happy to be there. We'll participate. But that's something that's going to come
We
as a
appreciate
request.
that. Yeah, and I think one of the things that Mr. Brandt brings up is we have so many different trails and too many different agencies involved. That's one of the bigger problems, and we tried to, think about that with this committee, but it's really not the right mechanism. We need to have a better, more joining. It almost needs to be a JPA kind of thing. I mean, I hate to go down that path, but it might be worthy to have a JPA that makes, sense of this whole thing, because not only do we have jurisdiction on the trails and maintenance and building, but we also have, emergency response responsibilities and locations and all kinds of things that are, like if you're, say, I'm on the levee trail at the After Bay. There's a lot of mileage there, so locating those kind of things would be a worthy thing. Endeavor down the path, plus the trails around the lake and all that, so. I think there's a lot of things that could be addressed in that and improve our whole trail system and make it attractive, so we'll work on that. Good topic. Okay, back to agenda, consent calendar. Any motions for the consent calendar to move forward?
I motion to approve the consent calendar.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion seconded. Call the roll, please. All right, thank you all. Next item, presentation updates. Number 3 is the committee will receive information regarding the current SBF projects. Mr. Marciniak, please.
Okay, it is actually page 8 in your packet if you're looking at it in paper or electronically. We currently have 3 projects and 1 additional encumbrance. The projects are the Brad Freeman Trail. That actually has been extended and will expire February 1st of 2025. It's $387,249.59 still outstanding. The Park District, I have had a conversation with the new general manager, Chris, and also with Brian. The district is looking for additional grants and potential methods of starting the project and getting it completed. The second item is the Miners Alley improvements. It was originally $50,000. It was extended. It will expire the end of this year. It's $12,048 remaining of the $50,000. They do have a couple of additional items to finish, and it's my understanding that they will finish, and they actually have asked for a partial reimbursement, but I kicked it back because it did not have the required documentation with it. So that one's moving along and we'll finish up. The third one is the Green Bridge lighting to the Oroville Rotary Club. That grant will expire July 1st of 2024. $100,000 is the grant. They are continuing with the design work. Included in your packet is a detailed memo from Dean Gurr outlining where they are, and he sent me an update, and then 3 days later he said, if you haven't published it, we have some exciting updates, and you'll see you have his current memo, which shows that that they are at $290,000 of funds against the $500,000 amount that they had set to do this project. They also recently received a grant from the city of Oroville for the arts in public places of $30,244.85. And with that, Kayla, if you could pop up that, we have just a real short video that is on their website now, and it actually is helping promote the project.
This one.
That one, yeah, thank you. Okay, and then additionally, I had called to Mr. Gurr's attention that the acknowledgement that they are publishing needs to include this SBF Supplemental Benefits Fund logo and an acknowledgement of the $100,000 commitment. It is moving along nicely. You can tell by the artist's visualization that only one side of the bridge is going to be completely lighted. The other side has string lights, I believe, at the pillars. It's interesting looking at it. It looks from the distance like the entire bridge is lit up, which is what they're after. So that one is moving along good.
We have a question from Commissioner
Yeah,
Brown.
go ahead.
Sonny?
Yeah, on the Downtown Business Association, I thought that was for paving, that they'd come back for paving the alley.
No, actually, their $50,000 grant included redoing the arches, painting buildings, lighting, some other bollards to protect people if the alley was used for an event, so somebody wouldn't accidentally turn down it in a car. I have talked with the Public Works Department at the city, and they have told me by the next meeting that I should have some sort of a date of when that alley will be paved. It's apparently, as a layperson looking at it, it looks like, gosh, all they need to do is just slap down some asphalt and clean it up. It's not quite that simple because there's all kinds of junction boxes from PG&E, from Cal Water, other utility things that have to apparently be reset before it can be repaved. Mm-hmm. So the grant did not include paving. Mm-hmm. Okay?
That's what I thought, but I thought the money that was left was for the paving.
No, it's not. No,
It'd be a lot more money than that.
And then we do have a commitment to the Oroville Chamber of Commerce. It's down to $7,363, and they are on track for utilizing all the funds by the end of the year. The other comment I would make on projects, if anyone has driven on the east side of going east on Montgomery, the Veterans Memorial Pavilion, they have actually been doing the finishing work on it. I talked with the contractor on Monday of this week. He anticipates being done in about a week with it, and then they'll have the temporary fencing down. It has the county then and the veterans group will move on to the next items, which include some additional seating and a bugler statue at the site. So it's looking really quite nice. And the SBF obviously had contributed significantly to that to help them get along with it. But it dragged along a little bit like the Brad Freeman Trail. The longer things go on, the more they cost. And they went from an initial estimate of a couple $100,000 to close to $500,000 to get it all finished. So anyways, it is moving along. But that's where we are with encumbered projects, and I do keep track of them, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I would like to add Mr. Melton did a wonderful rendition of that Oroville Lights project, and maybe Brian or maybe Fred, in tying in with that bridge project as a walkway, the city has made some requests to BCAG to making a sidewalk curb and gutter improvement on both sides. You might speak to that real quick to let the rest of the commissioners know where the city's asking for.
Yeah, so we're looking at the Washington Avenue, which ties into the Montgomery Roundabout, which ties into the bridge in Table Mountain. And for the first phase here is Washington, and ultimately been working with BCAG to identify potential funding assistance for that project. And one of the components would be to have more options for modes of transportation. We have a lot of schools around there. We have new apartment complexes going up on top of Table Mountain. So a solution could be to somehow incorporate bike lanes that go all the way from north to south that really connect Oroville from both sides of the community, which would be fantastic. It's not as easy as we would hope. Washington is, if you probably noticed, is a pretty narrow street. So we're going through some processes right now to assess that, to see if we can come up with a design plan that would work. We're going to be having some community meetings here in the near future to talk about some of the impacts on that. But if we can do that, that's kind of phase one. Then getting over the bridge, through the roundabout, over the bridge, and up Table Mountain would be, a couple years down the road. But it's very good discussions with BCAG, and BCAG's been a great partner.
So one of the commissioners know that's where we've actually made requests to them on this kind of funding. So it'd be nice to have a whole, downtown bicycle trail system. And Washington is a real struggle. I have to admit, I thought they were crazy, but I've seen some of the engineer ideas. It's like, oh man, that might work. So
yeah, it's hard. It's the street with the on-street parking and the utility poles that are on it are it's problematic, but where there's a will, we're hoping we'll find a way. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions of Mr. Marciniak on the reports?
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Item number 4, highlights of the $438 million recreation component of the settlement agreement. Is that Mr. Marciniak?
Okay, I've actually prepared a slideshow or PowerPoint. I'm dating myself, slideshow. It's like an overhead projector.
Yeah.
Kayla will get it pulled up in a second. In 2006, the DWR published a 17-page brochure for the community to help them understand the settlement agreement. Our pointer's broken, so I'm going to have to say next to Kayla each time she changes the slide, so bear with us. Okay, so go ahead, next. So the following slides that I put together detail the 49 recreation commitments totaling $438 million that have been made to the Oroville community. Next slide. So there's some assumptions. The assumption at the top, and this is going to be on each page of the slide, but I won't repeat it each time. It assumes that a 50-year FERC license was approved. Construction is completed within years 1 to 10 of these items. We had talked at the previous meeting, and I believe the meeting before, about triggers, things that cause things to happen. Interestingly, as we go through the slides, we'll see that some of the items have already been accomplished, even though the license has not been signed. So the component would be the location, that's at the first column on the left. The cost estimate, now this is a cost estimate, bear in mind of 17 years ago. So we're not, I've had a couple of discussions with Eric about how that may play out in the future, but this is what they submitted to FERC as part of their license approval project. And any changes or alterations would occur later. And then the years 1 through 10, these all say yes. Some of them occur within a few months, some of them occur within a year, 5 years. I didn't break out the exact years, but I do have that on a spreadsheet that I believe that I've sent to all of you. If not, I can resend it. And then the annual cost to maintain that item, and then what is this in a 50-year projection? So a couple of asterisks on this page. The Loafer Creek complex includes a feasibility study for a freshwater swim facility. And at this committee, gosh, for the last 17 years probably, there have been multiple discussions about that, and hopefully DWR, when it comes time for them to do the study, will not do the study at the Loafer Creek, but do it at an area that is better for the community overall. The other is the Oroville Dam Overlook Day use. That was done actually in 2012, 2013. And I've got a couple of pictures of that. So next slide. Just a reminder about the beautiful Lake Oroville. And Sunny graciously reminded all of us about how many miles there are for people to get around it. Most of it you get around by boat versus foot, but there are a tremendous amount of trails which hopefully we'll get some cooperation in the near future on getting that information out and the trails all ultimately connected. Next slide. The Bidwell Marina is this is a fairly current picture, obviously full of water, thank God, and apparently we're in for a wet winter, according to the people that make the announcements that are usually 50% correct. The next page lists some additional items. I won't go down each one of them. I'll just leave it up for a second or two. Next. The visitor center, that is actually completed. It does have improvements that'll occur once the license is signed and approved. But it does provide a great spot. It has, I go up there and walk my dog occasionally. It has great foot trails, as well as a tremendous amount of things, including a beautiful auditorium for the public and for anyone that wants to see it. You can request them to show you a film if it's just you by yourself. They load it in. They're very, very cooperative, and it's a wonderful center. Just sort of an ad lib comment, it might have been better to have it out at the forebay because of the amount of cars that go back and forth on Interstate 70, but maybe in the future that might be something that could be thought of or talked about. Next slide. Okay, and then the asterisk is improvements at the 162 bridge. So if you take 162 and start winding up to Berry Creek, you're going to come upon what is supposed to be a beautiful overlook. It's kind of, gravelly and full of rocks, and but it has a component to provide some nice signage, additional signage, and to make it an aesthetic place to actually stop versus just someplace to jump off the road. Okay, next slide. This is at the Oroville Dam overlook. This is one of the units from the dam down below that they've actually, I believe, refurbished and put up there. But they do have signage. It's a great place to, again, to sit, walk, to understand what the dam is all about. Next slide.
Is that
Pardon me?
for parking?
Yeah, it was closed for a long time to get in, but it's open now, so. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, the next is the floating campsites. They have multiple ones right now that are available, and they can be rented by the public. They intend to add additional. Next slide, please. The trails in the diversion pool, and I put an asterisk on that, it happens to fall in the low flow channel area of the Feather River, as does the diversion pool area. The Aquatic Center RV area at the North Thormalito Forebay. So that's used tremendously, and this committee has granted funds to the people that operate that right now. And they have, I think this was the first or second year that they did not receive money, but they have been doing extremely well. So including rafting tours on the Feather River on Saturdays. If anybody is out and about and walking a trail or crossing over the river, this last Saturday there were 4 in a row, 4 trailers loaded, and apparently it's been a sellout event. Okay?
Bob, quick question for you.
Yeah.
When we're looking at this slide and we see the North Forebay boat ramp and the first dollar amount, the $470, and then the annual cost of $550, if the license were issued at the 50-year mark, so is that saying that that amount will be budgeted for O&M at that particular facility for state parks? What does that 550 mean? The annual cost?
This is the DWR budget that was presented to FERC. You know, sort of your guess is as good as mine. I mean, if it turned into a 30-year license, all the numbers get reduced.
Sure.
On the operating end of it, I don't believe they get reduced on the recreational component. Mm-hmm. So if it costs $400,000 to do something to build it, they're going to maintain it for 30 years or 20 years less. Obviously, they're going to have less money in their budget.
Sure. Maybe, DB, can you explain what the 550 might be doing?
Push harder, Andrew. Andy.
There you go. You got it.
That would be an amalgamation of those agencies that were identified to provide operations and maintenance of those facilities throughout the term of the license, primarily DWR, state parks, Fish and Wildlife, and DBAW, who is now Department of Boating and Waterways, which is now doesn't really exist in the form that it existed at the time of license. But and those are estimates of how much it's going to cost to provide O&M for that facility throughout the term. So it's
not one agency; it's multiple agencies that are going to be providing the services. Right. Yeah. I just want clarification so everybody in the room understands the numbers, because you look at these big numbers and you think big thoughts, and then all of a sudden you wait a minute. You know, that 550 for O&M out there that's probably fairly conservative. Plus, it's numbers that were related back to 2006.
Yeah, and a lot of the activity at the North Forebay is through a concessionaire who's also got their own
Sure.
Funding generation scheme, which I'm not really knowledgeable of.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide. Floating restrooms, obviously something needed. If you don't have a big boat or a big item that you're floating on that does not have a restroom. So the intention is to add additional. Next slide. So you might notice on the Thermalito Forebay facility, it says replacement and refurbishment. There is no cost estimate because they actually did that prior to the negotiations. Next slide. Again, day use area campground. It's a pretty big number, but it provides for making it compatible to the forebay area. This is the after bay area. It's nice out there, but it is a little rough, to say the least. And just a picture of the after bay. Next slide. Sorry.
Can you back up to that, the outlet picture? I think one of the most interesting things there, this is the huge fishing spot of all. In fact, a lot of fishermen refer to this as combat swimming, or combat fishing, excuse me, because you get so many people in that section of the outlet that I believe Fish and Game have cameras up there to observe the fishermen.
Can't fish it this year for salmon.
Oh, is that right? Okay. And then this particular site will have some improvements at campground and those kind of facilities. I think it's even talked about earlier, probably sooner than later, it may happen there.
Oh, okay. Okay, next slide. So this is an interesting one. After the license is signed, DWR is supposed to have an office in the downtown area or within the city limits. Discussions with Eric and his predecessors have been, well, they're currently located in the city limits, their office is. It's just not accessible by Joe Public walking by. So I don't know if you guys are going to open an office downtown sometime, or probably not. Okay. You could leave that on.
Yeah.
Hey, this one works better. So yeah, the LCU is, that's just a item in there that they want staff local to the Oroville area and not centralized at headquarters in Sacramento, which is
So you
currently operating that way. That's what brings my position here, and I've got 3 engineers, and I have some colleagues that are providing environmental services.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some staffing up that will happen at that time. But.
Okay, I think that when all of this first was discussed multiple years ago, the impression was that there was going to be something either downtown or easily accessible versus people driving out to where you are. I just sort of bring that up for a point of reference.
Bob, we have a question from Commissioner DeLong.
Yeah, just on this topic, the current direction as you guys drive by the DWR facility on Glen Drive there, it's really not inviting for public. It doesn't look like DWR is trying to be a part of the community. It looks more like you're entering North Korea or something like that. Is there any plan to make DWR more approachable
fenced.
by the community and less in a bunker?
I think you're referring to the new security system out there.
I don't know if you've driven by at night, but
Oh, yeah.
there's lights and bullards and pop-up landmine thingies and all kinds of stuff.
I'll find the passage on the LCU. I know it's well lined out in the settlement agreement rec plan. But, you know, that we have worker safety issues that we have to
Right.
accommodate for, and times are changing.
Yeah,
So
true.
we do remain accessible. We hold public meetings. There's public meetings described in the settlement agreement rec plan that are going to be rolled out with the new license. We intend to be available. It may not necessarily be by way of a meeting in our office, because I'm going to have to get you to sign in and, you know, check in at the guard shack, and it's just a little cumbersome. But if you've got them in any federal buildings, you know, that's the way it is now. And many state buildings are that way.
Is Parks going to start resembling that?
No, it's not something Parks is going to do. So I don't think our department would ever approve that.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
I'm waiting to see the first deer speared on the stumbles and trying to go over that.
Those are called no climb fences.
Having
Yeah.
skewered up there on top.
Okay, and then on this current slide, slide, I'll call them, Riverbend Park Phase 1 and 2, $5,250,000. Obviously, it's been accomplished. They do have a projection to provide a limited amount of money during the 50-year period. So I just thought that was kind of neat to put in there. Lime Saddle, next slide. Lime Saddle Marina, obviously part of their overall project and part of the state water project. The next slide, the shooting area, whitewater boating operating and recreation study. They spent $250,000 doing a very comprehensive book that basically said it would be a good thing to have. It would cost somebody, whoever decided to run it, a ton of money. The city of Oroville, with funds partially provided by the SBF, did an additional study. Both of those are on the SBF webpage, if anyone has an interest in looking at that. The other thing is...
Quick question before you move beyond that for the railroad shooting range. That's pretty much under Fish and Game, operational control. And, we've all looked at some agency that might want to rent the facility or use something for it. Does Fish and Game have any other plans once this license is issued beyond what's there now, or have you heard any discussions? Okay. I know there's a lot of interest from some folks, and there's actually some drawings done, but it's one of those tough nuts to get the cracking going, and there is funds available through a certain federal act that would provide money, but that money comes to California on a once-a-year basis. It's the Pittman-Robinson Act, and there's a lot of money that comes from that. But it's like a choice that it comes and then you don't know where it's dispersed. It's not necessarily dispersed, throughout the state equally, because it's supposed to go for wildlife rehab and then training facilities, which this obviously could be a great training facility. And it's one of the few ranges that has such a long distance to it. So I just want to make the comment that it's not a little unfulfilled deal to get done, and it's right now I think there's 24 picnic tables and a pit toilet and common courtesies. There's no range master there, so I use the word common courtesy to actually go out and set your targets, and somebody raises their hand and everybody says, okay, well, I'll go. It's like, oh man, I don't, a little nerve wracking, but I just commented on it. It's another facility that we could really, expand upon and have offerings. So I don't know if you've heard anything from Fish and Game at all. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then included on that, on that slide is an analysis of a non-motorized water trail access. A lot of people call it the blue line, blue meaning water, for kayaks, canoes, sailboats. So it would be a trail within the river itself. Included in the numbers was a put-in for kayaks or small boats near the fish hatchery. Mm-hmm. So when that's completed, it'll make that process a lot easier. If anybody has done it, you have to kind of climb down a hill to get to it. Okay, next slide.
I'll make mention, too, that I've noticed 3 different school buses putting in right there lately. And I assume they're being coordinated with the
fish hatchery.
The fish hatchery and or the Fort Bay Aquatic Center, because I see kayaks and, I think I saw Quincy's school bus there the other day. And so it's a great opportunity to have that. I mean, it'd be nice to see a bus that could actually pull down the river and not have to climb down the improvised step system there.
Yeah, it'll be nice when it's completed. The next slide is just a picture of the Oroville forebay.
It's actually, I think, Friends of Butte Creek that are funding it through coordination with Department of Water Resources, fish biologists, and a local company that's providing the rafts now for those trips.
Well, the floating classroom program with the buses,
All right.
And
I don't think we've started school tours.
The schools?
Yet, though.
Okay.
They're doing tours of the hatchery itself,
Hatchery.
but I don't believe we've done actual school tours on the raft.
Well, and I don't know where it is, but I saw a school bus and they had 10 kayaks out there. They're all kids.
That's through what is the other one?
The
forebay.
Yeah,
Yeah, the 4-bay, yeah.
So ours are rafts, theirs are kayaks.
There you go. That's a good dissemination, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Bob, or do we have,
Just a picture. I like
Okay.
pretty pictures. So prior to the license signing, as we all know, they had a commitment to do several $1 million, which has all been expended, which is why we're anxious to kind of get the license signed. Some of us are. This just details what that is. Nice picture of the trails. This is a kind of neat shot. Great place to walk once you get through the tunnel and the little tunnels. Okay.
you know, and this is just something for the Trails Committee, or group, I want to call it a group. One of the things would be nice there at the diversion dam, actually have not only a sign that the trail is there, but even a posting about how much length you can start there. So, yeah, you get on the trail and how long it goes and whatnot might be helpful down the line. I'm just thinking, we were up there the other day and someone asked, well, how far does this go? And it goes a long way, and be good to give people, there you go, thank you. Yeah, that brochure would be great. Okay. thank
Okay,
you.
and then
Well, one of the things during negotiation on the settlement agreement that was talked about was a facility at Riverbend that would have someone from Parks and Recreation, maybe the Chamber of Commerce office and the Recreation office as you come into town, right there next to the freeway,
Yeah,
where you could meet the important people as far as the lake's concerned and the recreation would all be housed in one unit
yeah.
right there. And it seems to me trails are such a big deal. And I thought the city had talked about Bedrock Park area, but the levee on that side or the other side, if you come into town and you say, 200 miles of trail headquarters, recreation galore, or whatever,
Yeah,
you know, make it accessible.
good comment.
okay,
Keep going.
thank you. The current slide, excuse me, these are items that were done pre-2006. They were things that occurred before the discussions for the relicensing began. So just showing you that DWR has a commitment to the community. The wildlife area, great place for, sunset last night, if anybody was out there, would have blown your socks off. Just a couple other things. I just sort of kind of call this to everybody's attention so that we don't lose sight of the current time. DWR did spend a lot of money on the spillway emergency. Next slide. Keep going. Go. Sorry. I'm talking ahead of you, but go ahead. Yeah. Pretty well concludes my presentation. It is a partnership, and I think it's appreciated. It just needs to get completely fulfilled. So, actually, Andy is going to do did you bring a slide, any thing that you want up on the? Okay, great. Andy's going to talk about two items that, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Next slide. Next one. So DWR and the Oroville Chamber of Commerce signs, these are billboards on Highway 99 just before you come to 162. They are really effective. They tell people about Oroville, where to turn, how to get there, where to find the lake. It's just another item that shows partnership of various agencies. Okay, and then my final slide is my favorite one, show us the rest of the money. Okay. Any questions or comments on that?
Commissioner, questions? Any questions from the floor out there?
Okay.
Real quick, I want to add one thing that you handed up that trails brochure, it just flashed me because we've had some meetings with the lineman school out here. And I just thought, boy, that's one brochure that needs to be, the city has never welcomed the students when they come in for orientation. So we got an invite to do that the next class in December, whatever it is. That's a classic example because they're bringing in 300 students for 15 weeks to be here in the community. And we've never done a City of Oroville, welcome to Oroville kind of thing. And that's a classic example of the brochure that those students need to have in their hands. I thank you for holding that up. It reminded me of some of the things we're going to put a packet together, and there's a good item right there because the students come, they spend 15 weeks here, and we just thought, we've never welcomed them to the city, so hopefully we'll be doing that soon. So,
Okay, go
good
ahead
item.
and
Thank you.
Contact me if you want. We have boxes of those that we're
Excellent. Appreciate that.
distributing.
Yeah, we could actually, David, even put some out at the Lyman's College.
Well, that too, and then the day they come in for orientation, the president said he'd give us 10 or 15 minutes to talk about the
No,
town,
the brochure is great.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item is, I called it What If, and this is the thing that Sonny has talked about several times. It is from Appendix B of the settlement agreement, Exhibit A, and we actually have a handout also, just the page that has that information on it. And it talks about if water interruptions occurred or if there was an electrical issue. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Andy. And Andy actually will be attending the meetings, the next couple meetings maybe, because Eric is on a special assignment as the head of everything.
Just, I
Glen
wanted to
Drive.
go back to the prior comment about the license coordination unit. It is, it does say that it is, will provide appropriate staff in Oroville, but it doesn't necessarily say that it's a downtown location or that it's, meant for public walk-ins. It's the three primary purposes that it will serve, three functions that it will serve will be to manage the recreation, environmental, and other terms and conditions of the license, ensure compliance with regulatory framework defined by FERC and other regulatory agencies, provide a local point of contact for the community. So we intend to provide those services. And Aaron brought up a good point. We do provide the Lake Oroville Visitor Center where it's open to the public 5 days, currently 7 days a week. We're back up to full staffing. There was a little bit of time there where we were understaffed, but that's also available. And we have a public affairs office with DWR with a local public information officer, Raquel Borrell, who's available for public comment. And I'm certainly try to make myself as available as possible for coordination on the nuts and bolts of the rec implementation. So.
Well, and
Don't let a fence scare you.
Yeah.
I mean, but we're generally not open for someone to just pop in and, Brian, could I just walk into your office right now?
Here?
Yeah. Oh, you could?
he has a back door. He might walk out. You never know.
Lock him on the inside? Yeah.
You have to get buzzed in.
Okay, you gotta get buzzed in.
I
All
think
right.
there's a model here that we sometimes looked at up at Lake Shasta. They have an actual off-ramp, and there's a Lake Shasta Visitor Center that I believe is run by the feds. And so that's kind of what I think Sonny's referring to is a pull-off spot to, enter the Shasta recreation region. And really, I think we're talking, again, the topic was always a visitor center in downtown somewhere that the visitors would go to and have the connection that we're talking about. That's a bigger question that we all need to look at. We've talked about it in some of the projects around town, but we haven't really implemented it. I just see that as it's just like Crater Lake has a visitor center before
Right.
you get there. So that's something. And
yeah.
the one up on top of the
Kelly Ridge.
is.
That's the intent of that visitor center.
And it's very good. It's just sometimes hard to get to. And that's where we're talking about everybody is freeway accessible nowadays. And it'd be something for us in the city to probably look at in the future to help coordinate something like that as a drop-in We could just make it Brian's office, I mean, you know.
There we go.
Yes, sir. Oh, Councilman Riggs, sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that the Supplemental Benefits Fund also directs funds to the Chamber of Commerce, which is a very accessible to downtown area and should be able to provide that drop-in service to connect people to research, to recreation opportunities.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't make that thing go. That used to be very much what the chamber did. It was huge in tourism, and everybody who came in town came up, usually Montgomery, not everybody, of course, but it was very, very busy that way.
Yeah.
I think it's different now. I don't know, I haven't been there.
They still provide that.
Is this it?
I'm going old
Is
school.
this it?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So regarding supplemental benefits fund, item, appendix B 100, these are
Choose one, but have it in front of you.
There you go. It's good.
go.
Go for it.
All right, I'm gonna leave it on. So supplemental benefits fund is, as you're aware, it's outside of the license, but it is part of the settlement agreement. And Sonny was asking, brought our attention to an item that we hadn't been paying particularly close attention to. And this has to do with curtailments of the funding stream or deferments of the funding stream based on water or power operations. Sorry, something came to mind. Was Jonathan Young able to get on the
He was supposed to be on Zoom.
Zoom? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, because I've tried to dial into these meetings before, and
He wasn't on previously, but I do show him as the only participant right now.
Okay, great, thanks. So I guess I'll spare you from reading it there, but basically, if there's an allocation of water, this is regarding item E6. If there's an allocation of water less than 25%, there's a reduction schedule there. So I've provided two sheets for you. One is an example payment. We made the assumption that the license was issued in 2007 and just carried forward to today. What years would you have likely seen a shorted payment? Now, just for clarification, this item 6 is a deferment of the payment that then is recouped in following years. And DWR's role in this would be just to make the calculation and put it out there for the steering committee and the state water contractors to follow through with. We do identify those. So what this shows is the an amount provided to the SBF when the license is executed, the 1.9 million. At settlement, and then when the license is issued, there's an additional 4.1 million, and then there's about 5.2 million that was provided prior to license, And that's what makes for that beautiful entryway to your city at Riverbend Park, which is stunning. It's a great facility. And then we did a hypothetical amount of 1 million per year. You'll see the May allocation in starting with the water year typically goes October 1 to September 30th. It follows the California's arid water season. You know, we have a wet winter and dry summer. And DWR will make projections on how much water we can deliver to what is called the Table A amounts, or the amount that the state water contractors contracted for when they provided the backstop and the funding to build Oroville Dam and the hydroelectric facilities. So any year where we are less than, you know what, there's a column, we made some edits just before, and there's a column that got shifted on this. Apologize. So the
So
where
John,
there's 35%. If you look at the allocation, the fourth column over, where there is the allocation payment, it would be 1 million in years where we're 35% or above. We're below 20% allocation. You'll see the reduction.
but Jonathan, excuse me,
Andy.
Andy, if I'm reading this right, this is only for the water deliveries where the reductions
Correct.
are.
I'm only talking about E6 right
Oh,
now. I'm
okay.
not talking about E8.
The electrical, you're not.
The electrical, right.
Okay.
Right now. I'll talk about that after we work through this item.
And just to clarify that, during the times that any time the SBF, the what if, wouldn't have received the full amount, the balance of it has to be paid back to the SBF over a period of 5 years? 5 years, okay.
Yes.
5 equal installments. So if we were short committee members 500,000 for the next 5 years, we'd get an extra 100,000, providing we weren't short those years. So I'm looking at it, it looks like it really only has 2 times that it would kick in this hypothetical scenario that you've presented. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, I believe it would have kicked in 2007. I believe a row got deleted there in some last minute
okay.
edits. But that where it says 35%, there would have been a deferment in that year. So then the next column over, you'll see residual payments, which is the amount that is then paid back in subsequent years. You'll notice 2 very substantial droughts that we've had in 2014 and 15, and then in 2019, 20, and 21, where then those amounts get deferred. And then, for example, in 2023, where we came back to 100% allocation, your 1 million a year annual payment would go up to 1.7 million, because you're recouping 3 prior years of deferments.
Mm-hmm.
And which would, at the bottom of the 5th column, you'll see deferred annual payments of 1.68 million. Which, since we're only 1 year out of our drought, there's still that much to catch up to. And then we did escalate that. So the payments are approximately 25 million in individual years, but escalated, it would have a present value using that composite index that is identified in section 7 of the settlement agreement. And there's a specific formula there on how to escalate costs when it does come up as an issue in the settlement agreement. It comes up to about 39 million that the SBF would have, in payments the SBF would have received, assuming a license issuance in 2007. Was that what you were trying to get at?
Yes, on both
Issue?
that and the power.
On the water,
Of course, the power is a big one,
Right,
because
right,
You lose the money.
yeah.
You don't lose it if you get water deliveries that allow you to pay back.
Right.
So you get all your money back.
I'm gonna talk about power after this, and I'm gonna promise to come back and talk about it more, either myself or Eric.
Okay, yeah, just let me know.
To give you a little spoiler. So on the second page, I did show what we have paid to date is 11.27 million, and that includes the most recent and final payment of 135,000 in 2023. And then when that is escalated to current or 2022 dollars, that's DWR has paid out 19.7 million so far in SBF funds in current dollars.
How do you escalate?
There, if you look at, so starting in 2002, we provided 3 million to the Riverbend Park, the initial phase, and in, I believe it was 04 or a couple years thereafter, there was an additional 2.2 million.
But you're saying that's
Yeah, it was, totals 5.2 million. It's worth about 10.7 million, right? 10.7 million right now, and that's pretty consistent with what it may cost to build those facilities now.
you paid out what you paid out.
You were the one that asked for
Yeah.
an escalation schedule, so it's got to work on both sides of the coin,
Yeah.
Sonny.
No.
All right. And it has a value today. It has a value today. Right.
So the $100 million,
Familiar with escalating backwards.
right. So the $100 million question is DWR going to pay us the escalated payments, the differences? I don't believe that the
That's-
agreement calls for that to occur.
It does not.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
So, and I think the argument with Sonny and others for a long time has been, the feelings were that the FERC would act, within 1 or 2 years, and things would move along and swimmingly, and everybody would do whatever they're going to do with the money. But in the meantime, we've sat here on money that has ended up not being as valuable as it would have been had we been receiving it for the last 17 years. But so I looked at this at first, Andy, and I got kind of excited thinking maybe I missed something in my 17 years of writing this thing, that there was an escalation clause hidden, but apparently not. So this is just showing what it's valued in
Present
today's
value,
dollars.
yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. I wanted to make sure we were all on the same
Right.
Right.
Councilman Johnstone has a question.
unfortunate level on that. No.
Yeah, that's my thing, I'm not even understanding why we're even talking about, an escalation if there's no value to us, based upon this information.
I think it might be for future discussions. That's my opinion.
But if there's no escalation clause in any of the information
Yeah, okay.
Maybe a better term would be the present value of that money.
that we have so far, right, but
If I gave you $1 million 16 years ago, it's worth a lot more than that today,
Right,
because you bought things The construction projects that we've done even, this year versus 5 years ago we're seeing inflation that's just off the charts.
Okay.
So the question came up about the time value of money, and so we're making sure that it's recognized that we didn't give you $1 million in 2022 dollars. We distributed $1 million, 11.2 million in different years between 2002 and 2023 that has a value that's
Go ahead.
higher than.
Mr. Wright, please.
I'm looking at the first sheet you handed out, I'm asking this as a question. So if we had a contract tomorrow, is this saying roughly the value of that 1 million a year is now 1.5 million, roughly in the new, if they started getting it tomorrow for new FERC license? Because I'm just looking at it's 1.5, 1.5, 1.5.
Yes.
So that's about the
This-
equivalent of what the new SBF would get?
No. We
No.
won't,
The SBF
we do
will-
not receive the difference.
No, if there was a license tomorrow,
Right.
and you started getting the 1 million a year, that would be the current day's value of what they would be getting. And I'm asking it as a question,
No,
okay.
They would,
no. Yeah, it's kind of a,
so
it's
it's,
kind of a nebulous thing when you're
Yeah.
not getting the money.
Right.
It's almost hurtful, actually.
well, it's pretty clearly written throughout Article B
Yeah,
that the costs are unescalated. I wasn't there for the negotiations,
right.
and I've never won the lottery, but I know that there's this thing where you can take a lump sum or you can take consistent payments, and there's an accountant that comes up with that amount.
Yeah.
And so at some point in 2006, those who negotiated on behalf of the city chose a non-escalated cost, and I think that was a good choice.
Yeah.
Because you obviously would want greater funding up front. It's also explicitly detailed in there about the half-time, full-time equivalent for a grant writer, intentionally put in there to find matching grant funds to offset the cost to offset inflation. Also recognizing that, for example, when we offered $5 million for Riverbend Park, that's worth about 10 or 11 million nowadays. So you have a facility there that is worth more in 2023 dollars than it was in 2002 dollars.
Right.
Only if you can sell it.
Okay.
If, let me,
That
yeah.
continues to provide a benefit to the people of Oroville and Butte County. It's not everything's about money, Cliff,
Yeah.
right?
one of the things I want to comment too is one of the difficulties, and we're all kind of struggling with this 17-year process. Yeah.
I share your pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
We have, DWR has invested a lot of money into this licensing process. And we have, we're dealing with complications of not having a license now too. It's not.
Right. Oh, I
we're not
agree.
Unsympathetic to your situation.
and I want to comment because I was interviewed by E&E News, which is an energy news agency. It's a worldwide electronic mechanism. And the lady's name was Miranda, and she was doing an article specific to FERC that is averaged 10 years behind on all their licenses. So we're not the stepchild out there. We're the longest one at 17 years, and she accepted all our conversations. In fact, I asked her to come and talk with Ted Craddock to get more details, but she was doing an article on the fact that FERC has not provided FERC licenses for a number of agencies, not just this one. So I want to make that comment. And the difficulty with FERC today is they have 5 commissioners, and 1 position is empty. And they have not appointed anyone, and there's 2 different political parties there, and they're both opposite. So I hate to say this is getting political, but it very much is, because the U.S. Senate has just stepped in and now wants to make some changes to FERC. Senator, I forgot the Democratic leader's name, but he has written a letter to FERC to get involved in FERC stuff. So I would hope that we would see something soon. But after those discussions and the conversation back at with that particular newspaper, they were focused in on the problem that FERC has in issuing a license. And when all of them are averaging 10 years or more, it's not a good thing, so.
I think
Commissioner
I've
Brandt.
seen,
Yeah.
it's been several years ago, but I believe I saw 3 or 4 licenses that were
Yeah.
pending for longer than ours.
Well, we just had a recent article I hope I distributed to this
You
group.
did.
Yeah, okay.
We actually sent it
Yeah.
out.
And Commissioner Brandt,
Okay.
there you go. You're good.
I want to thank Brian and the city for their letter, which was very good. And I want to thank Candy for the water.
Appreciate it.
That was beautifully done, and I appreciate it. But the whole request that I had was so we could look and see, based on the operation of the project for 17 years, what we would have received, so we can plan for the future. Now, in water, you recover if they get their allocation the following years. You get the money. So what you gave us doesn't show what we would have lost. But in the electrical, if it's more than a 10% decrease in electric power, and we know with the flooding of the dam and the powerhouse and burn up of the Forebay powerhouse, we know you didn't get full production. So really what we want to see is what we wouldn't have gotten. So,
I had more to talk about.
okay.
We'll put you on
Thank
reserve.
you.
Yeah. Commissioner DeLong.
After you're done.
Okay. Go ahead.
So as I mentioned earlier, when you brought this clause up at the prior meeting, it was something that we hadn't particularly been paying attention to. But yes, there is clause E8 that provides for, that allows for a deduction that is not repaid when power is beyond 10%. Due to a forced outage, regulatory, legislative, or judicial, or a forced outage. And you bring up the one event that I can think of that would possibly trigger that is the Thermalito or the Thermalito Thermalito power plant and the fire that took that out of service for approximately 8 years. So what we are finding is that the data that we collect and disseminate on water is widely distributed and it's collected in greater detail. The data on power generation is less accessible because that is a very competitive market and the data is not as available, especially looking at it in arrears. So there is an active conversation ongoing and we're trying to come up with the answer to that, but we don't have that answer today.
Andy, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we do have a raised hand on Jonathan. He would like to
Great.
speak.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Where's Jonathan?
We're waiting to hear from you, Jonathan. Are you there? Okay.
Can you call him, Andy?
Jonathan who?
Young.
It'd be Jonathan Young, he's
Oh,
a
yeah,
representative from
yeah,
the State
yeah.
Water Contractors.
Yeah, I remember.
I have another question for Andy. This says, if in any year, an annual generation at the Oroville facility is reduced by more than 10% due to the forced physical outage, isn't when the powerhouse floods, isn't that a physical outage? How about when they put new generators in and the generators wobbled and they only ran one generator for How many years?
Those were planned.
What, planned?
Planned or unforced outages. So there's, this term is going to the point of forced or unplanned outages. And so we have outages all the time, but it's to do planned maintenance. We make a plan, we'll manage water deliveries and power generation around that. For example, we have an RVOS, River Valve Operating System project that's going on right now where we're balancing different water and power demands to execute the project and do upgrades to our facilities. Those don't count.
Those don't count.
In this,
To me, they count on paper.
Well, no, it's unforced. So those don't count in this. They wouldn't apply, they wouldn't result in a deduction in the SBF or a reduction in the SBF funding stream. It's only when it's forced. So the other incident that you brought up is the flooding of the plant. That was for a fairly short-term duration, and presumably you're referring to 2017? That is, that was not, this is looking at it at an annual basis, and so that didn't result in a 10%. It's
Reduction.
our expectation that that did not result in a 10% power generation loss.
Well, how about the wobbling of the generators and the fact that they were shut down when they replaced it?
My understanding was that they did those my understanding was that they did those one at a time. But that was, I can get more information on that for you.
Yeah, three of them were shut down for a long, long time.
Caleb, would you try Jonathan again? He just zoomed. He said he tried to get on.
Jonathan, are you there? Nope, I'm showing again. Oh, give me one moment. Are you there, Jonathan?
Can you guys hear me?
Perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Good to go.
A voice.
You might want to put me back on mute though. So, what I was going to say, just relevant to this discussion, is that if there are any changes to the output or generation at the Oroville facilities at the legislative, regulatory, judicial level, I imagine the contractors would be very concerned about that type of change and would probably be opposing it. So I think, as Andy spoke about, changes through that level, I think is something the contractors would actively be engaged in trying to make sure those don't impact the generation abilities of the Oroville facilities.
Fair enough.
And then just to Commissioner Pittman's point about FERC being down to 4 commissioners, historically, that the commission, in particular the U.S. Senate, has preferred to appoint 1 Democrat and 1 Republican at the same time. So part of the hang up of why they're sitting at 4 commissioners is one of the commissioners, I believe it's Commissioner Danley, his term will come up for reappointment either now or in the next couple months. I'm not sure exactly when the timing is, but at that point, then it's likely they'll take up 2 appointments at the same time, or they'll wait for him to term out completely and look for another alternative Republican appointee. So it's kind of a weird way they do it, but historically that's what they do. So that's why they're always up and down from 3 to 5 members and sometimes 4.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that. None of us can operate that way. I guess they can, though. And I only raise it up because it's a dilemma. I mean, on this side, all of us have done our due diligence to get this thing done. It's really in FERC's basket court, and I was appreciative that the reporter was looking at that and remarked about the Oroville project in particular, and I appreciate Ted's input into it. It's just, we've got to have to talk to our legislators and the federal government to get this thing ball rolling, because, I mean, they've held us hostage for 17 years, all of us in this room. And I appreciate your words, Jonathan. Thank you for that clarification. Anything else, Jonathan?
I think the only thing I wanted to just comment on regarding the the reduced allocation resulting in deferred payments was that obviously I think in May is when the allocation is updated, and then from a state water contractor perspective, we would then have to take that request to defer some of that payment to our board. So just internally, that's how we would handle that. And I'm not sure, it would depend on when our board meetings coincide with the allocation update, but that's how it would work internally for us.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that clarification. Andy?
Well,
We should let Andy finish your presentation if you're,
That's about all I had.
okay. All right.
But yes, we will come back with, we'll try to evaluate or estimate what those reductions would have been from the, 2007 on up to current. And
Okay.
it's just, what I'm trying to get at is that it turned out to be a more detailed exercise than I had
Hey,
estimated it to be.
Well, and
and
we're
that-
living with the document that was done some time ago, and
Right.
as we're finding out one memo that, we didn't know about. So it's good that we're looking this stuff up and
Right.
finding out.
And I suspect that this whole clause was intended to be a backstop against a major
Right, event.
event or outage or regulatory upheaval.
Okay. Any other questions of Andy?
yes.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Sonny.
Okay. I guess my problem is due to forced physical outage or forced physical outage. I mean, I think when your generators start wobbling and are going to go off, that forces you to have an outage. And the flood forced you to have an outage. And the blockage in the diversion pool forced you to not turn on all your generators. So I think there's a lot of force here. But to go further, if you read in the details that we don't have here, the reason we get hit in the supplemental benefit fund is because you built the dam. And you took our river recreation center of town away from us. And we don't get it back when you don't generate power. But you take the money you're giving us back because you don't know that the water users will pay for the water. And it's you designed the project. Well, you designed it to take all our power. The potential we had here, which we use with South Feather for our water. We have one of the cheapest waters in the state of California because we have powerhouses. We use our power there. We don't use our power here. We forfeited it to the water contractors and the water users in Southern California, but then they want to come back and stick us if they don't generate the power. But the swimming's gone, the recreation's gone, the lifestyle's gone. But you don't get that little cherry that we put out there for goodwill and to give you some more recreation. We're gonna squeeze some of that back because these guys down south can't pay more. What? I mean, it's just like it stick my finger in your eye. That's how it. I'm sorry. That's how it gets me.
Okay. Thank you, Sonny. Commissioner DeLong.
I'd just like to say that these issues are going to be solved anytime soon. I think there's probably other ways that we have some talented individuals in the room now. We've got Chris now, who's got a lot of experience writing grants. We've got Brian, who's very talented. Jonathan Young is got young, open mind, I'm sure. I'm hoping that we can all get together in some other forum, maybe with the leaders of these organizations, parks, the city, DWR, state parks, and figure out some ways to make this stuff happen, because I don't think it has to be through this process, and I don't know if this process is ever going to get anywhere, especially areas that are outside of the FERC license agreement, which is the area that we're concerned about. Like, to me, that means the FERC license agreement doesn't really have to be, you don't have to have your FERC license in order to get see progress in this area. We should still be able to collaborate and cooperate, and the agencies should be able to work together to get some of this stuff done. More Prop 68 money coming down the line here. Let's figure out another way instead of just repeating the same thing over and over again. I mean, it may never happen. Who knows? Honestly, right?
Somewhere.
But the
down there.
land's still there. The possibilities are still there. Like, I wrote this out. I've done it before. I think I mentioned it before, but, and I don't know where I put it now. Oh, here you go. The fact is, Central Park in New York City, big deal, right? 840 acres. Bidwell Park in Chico, the largest city park, right? Big deal, 3,670 acres. Okay? The Oroville Wildlife Area blows it away alone, 11,800 acres. Lorsa, 29,447 acres. Riverbend is 210 acres. There's land in between there could be added to this. That's a big deal, man. Like, if we talk about making Oroville, putting on the map and being something that people want to live here, the citizens want to live here, forget about recreation dollars. If people want to live here, then you're going to see the economy turn around. So if there's a way to focus on this without all this SBF, bureaucratic, FERC license agreement, and get you guys in a room together and discussing how to make that happen, I think that would be great.
Thanks, sir. Any other comments of Mr. Brower's presentation?
I did want to highlight
Oh, yeah, please.
that during those years where we had hypothetical reductions and outages, which was a big point of why I brought that sheet of DWR payments to date, we were making payments. In 2017, when you mentioned the possibility of an outage, a forced outage at the power plant, and because of the dredging, which I do want to remind you that it's that term in there is an annual basis, and those outages were short enough duration to not hit the annual total. However, SBF was provided $3 million in 2017. When the Ron Roby power plant burned down in, I believe it was 2011, we had made payments of $100,000 in advance. So we've been making goodwill gestures.
Yeah, true.
Don't mean to knock myself over, pat myself on the back, but we're not looking to leave you hanging.
Yeah.
Right, we just,
Appreciate that, Andy.
yeah. Payments have been made, and
Yeah.
we've, in fact, made payments to the fullest extent that we can make pre-license, with the last payment of $135,000 this year. So,
Thank you, sir.
that's,
Appreciate your comments.
thanks.
Any other questions? I think we move to the next item on the agenda, which is the steering committee advisory members and staff comments. DWR? Andy, anything more other than the topic?
Yeah, I just,
We'll have to get for all of us.
that one works a lot better than this one. I'm just,
It's because you like to mess with
yeah,
it.
I bet.
Picked it for you.
got it.
Lake elevation's at 822 right now, which is pretty full for this time of year. 2.46 million acre feet. The Thermalito Afterbay River outlets putting out 1,800, and there's 650 in the low flow, so that's about 2,450 CFS going down the high flow section of the river. And the Afterbay canals are taking about 1,325 CFS right now. This would be primarily for water deliveries to probably mostly going to rice reflood at this time. October 1st starts the new water year, and we ended up at 66.6 inches for the 8-station index. That's the watershed of not specifically the watershed of Oroville, but it's a good representation of that. And I do want to highlight the next ORAC meeting is November 3rd at the Oroville Southside Community Center at 10 a.m. And again, that's where DWR coordinates with the recreation, takes advice, and, that 13-member panel is there to advise DWR on recreation-related facilities. I know, this is the SBF committee, and it's more constrained to steering the delivery of funds pursuant to the
Gotcha.
funding agreement. And
Right.
the trails subcommittees and those things are harder to fit into to this venue, but would invite all with
All right.
recreation-related input to attend.
Councilman Johnstone.
Yeah. Vice Mayor Smith just wanted me to mention that the Chamber, Friends of Butte Creek, and DWR were the sponsors of the rafting floats that were talked about previously, not the Aquatic Center. There's a big blue sign out there that he wanted me to mention, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. State Parks?
I don't have much. Visitation was up this year as we kind of expected. It's probably been the highest it's been in at least 6 years that I saw on the record. I'll bring the numbers next time. I apologize. The Bidwell project for the campground is going well. It's on schedule, so we'll have that campground back open for next summer. So I'm excited about that. And then if you're going around the parks, just be aware there's a lot of vegetation management projects between state parks, DWR, CAL FIRE. There's been a lot of grants, and so there is a lot of activity on our trails right now. And I don't have much else unless you have anybody has questions.
How's your agency and staffing doing? I mean, everybody's in the staffing. I'm just curious if you're fully staffed yet or not.
No, we only had 19 people in this current academy class for peace officers, which is low.
Oh, wow.
But our maintenance and our peace officers we're struggling. But we're going to the off season, so visitor services for Park Edge, we're doing really good right now.
Oh, good. Good.
So, and our admin staff are looking pretty positive.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Any questions of Aaron? Mr. Steindorf, American Rivers, he's not online, is he? Okay. Is Jonathan still online?
Jonathan is still online.
Jonathan, do you have any report to give us? Additional information?
No new reports. Just want to apologize for not being there in person, but I will be at the ORAC meeting next week.
Thank you, sir. Chamber of Commerce?
Look at Amber. Don't look at me.
Boy, that's shuffling right
those
there
days
real
are
quick.
long gone.
She shuffled you off right real quick, Amber. Welcome, Amber.
And to thank Chrissy earlier for during the discussion, because I was listening. I just had to finish up a project, which is why I apologize I'm late. But for recognizing that we are a central hub for a visitors center, even though there has been a misperception that the chamber doesn't do tourism, anyone who's involved with working with me, I think it's pretty obvious that we do a ton of tourism stuff even nowadays, and I've been chair of the Oroville Tourism Committee Board for the last 3 years. I see these people every day and try to work with them just to get tourism information out. So if any of your organizations want to work with me a little closer or have any ideas, just bring them on by. But I can say with the chamber's involvement, there's been a significant growth and people look to the chamber for tourism-related information. For example, when I started working there 6.5 years ago, the average Facebook post about an event would get about 30 reach, and I posted about Parade of Lights yesterday, has over 6,000 reach in less than 24 hours, and it grows exponentially every year. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions on what we're up to?
Well, no, I appreciate that. I'll just mention again, one of the things that the city minister and I were talking with the Lyman College, we really ought to reach out and
I agree.
Take something to the orientation more than just welcome. But if we had some, literature, whatnot, to pass out to students, they're a growing opportunity in our community, and there's about 298, almost 300 students they're welcoming. I want to say, yeah, every 5th, and there's December 12th. Is that the number? We'll get you the time, but Any packets or information, I'm sure would be greatly appreciated. Yeah.
And I can build those all up and deliver it out. I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah,
I did hear
all right.
that part. Yeah.
Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Thank you.
Any questions of Amber before Mr. Marciniak? Yeah.
Actually, I will have a written report out to all of you next week.
Okay. Then we'll move to regular business. Any regular business by the members?
There is none.
There's none. Correspondence, I think the one item, the letter went from the City of Oroville Council to FERC.
Yes, it did, and just a quick update on that. So I've been following up with FERC very nicely on a weekly basis, and I did get a response back last week.
Uh-oh. Wait a minute.
Put it on the calendar. It was a response. So I learned that we need to not only send the letter via the mail, but we need to upload it into the FERC portal. So that's now since been done. So it's communication, it's dialogue. So I'm optimistic I'm going to be reaching out to them on a weekly basis and try to get some traction or some updates on what the status is of the FERC license. So I have a couple contacts.
Yeah, excellent.
We did see it come through the docket as well. My
Yeah.
note got uploaded.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you, that's good information. This is a call for any agenda items in the future. I think we have two from you two gentlemen for the next item. Anybody else with an agenda item? No, none, no? Then we'll move toward, general, I hear a motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Shannon's got a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Motion passes.
I look at, what is this, 3:40 hours? We are adjourned until the next meeting. Do we have that listed, Paul? Excuse me.
Yeah, it's just,
Next meeting will be January 24th, 2024, regular quarterly meeting. Thank you all.